Good morning, year 7. Today we are going to speak about chapter 14, forces and motion. All of you know we can't see force, but you can see what it does. Yes? So, what's meant by force is a push or pull, and force can be measured with a Newton spring balance. Look at the tool that's used to measure the force is called Newton spring balance. What's meant by Newton? Newton is the standard international unit. SI, capital SI means standard international unit that forces is measured in, and the abbreviation of Newton, capital N. Force. Give me example for force that I feel it. Yes, I feel the effect of force on my body. Like if you make object move, I exert force. If you want to throw any object like ball, I exert force. If you make a moving object stop after throwing ball, catch it, so this is needs force. Change the direction and the speed of the ball also, this is force. Change the shape of object. If you exert a force on it, squash it, compress, twist it, all these force. So force is a push or pull. We have other scientific term, gravity. What's meant by gravity? Gravity, all of you know, characterize our planet Earth. Gravity is the attractive force that exists between all objects that have mass. You know mass? The amount of matter in an object. Planet Earth characterized by gravity, so every object on Earth attracted to other object or attracted to the earth. So gravity is the effective force that exists between all objects that have a mass, and also gravity has a standard international unit, meter per second or meter per second square. I can write meter per second or meter per second square. What's meant by weight? We mentioned mass, the amount of matter in an object, and this is fixed. Every object has its own mass. It's constant, doesn't change. The mass never change from place to place, but the weight change from place to place because the weight is not constant. It depends on the gravitational force exerted on it. Weight is the gravitational force exerted on an object. Okay? Now, we mentioned types of forces. We have two types, two main types of forces. Contact force and non-contact force. Contact means touching. Two objects touch each other, so they exert, one of them exert force on other. This is called contact force. But non-contact force, force that one object can apply to another without touching. Contact force, force that exerted only when two objects are touching. When two objects are touching. But a force, non-contact force, a force that one object can apply to another object without touching it. The famous example of non-contact force, gravity, electricity, magnetism. I can feel the electricity, but I can't see the electric current, or I can't see the electric charges passing through a wire. Magnetism, I can't see the action of magnetism like repulsion and attraction, but I can see how the attraction happens. I can see the touch between two poles of magnet, but I can't see it. Yes, I can't see the particles or the magnetic field. Sorry, in case of magnetism, I can't see the magnetic field, but I see the results, attraction or repulsion. Now, let us speak about contact force. We have different forms for contact force. Number one, impact force. What's meant by impact force? When moving object collides. Collides means touching. Colloid means touching. When moving object collides with a stationary object. Stationary doesn't move. Object doesn't move. Stationary object means object doesn't move. Stay in its place. And other moving object collide with it. We have large force, like when a hammer hits a nail. The nail stops without moving, and by hammering on the top of nail, hammer hits a nail, this is exert large force. This is called the impact force. Or small force due to a molecule of gas in the air strikes the skin. When molecule of gas in the air strikes the skin, this is exert small force. This is also called impact force. What about other form of contact force? Strain force. Strain force or applying or spring force. Yes, I can say it spring force. Strain force when a material is loaded or exerted with a force, it reduces a stress. Strain force when a material is loaded with a force, it produces a stress, which then causes a material to deform. Deform, it lose original shape. The word deform means lose its original shape. Yes? So the example, when material is squashed or compressed or twisted, bent, these called strain force. Materials squashed, twisted, compressed or bent, this is called the strain force. We have type from strain force called tension. Tension is a strain force that is exerted by a stretched spring. In this case, I can say it spring force. Tension called spring force. The strain force, it's a type of strain force that is exerted by a stretched spring. Look at the two boys. They stand together against each other. So they exert a tension force because he wants to pull a rope and the other boy, he wants to pull the rope. Both of them exert tension force in opposite side. This is pulling force and this is pulling force in the opposite side. The result is tension force. We can say balanced forces. When the force on an object are balanced, the net force is zero. The pulling force equal this pulling force by this one, so the net is balanced forces. The net force is zero and there is no change in the object's motion. No change in the motion because the force that exerted by this one equal and in opposite direction to this one, so the net is balanced forces, no motion. So tension is a strain force that acts against the force applied.